Welcome back to the shop. This video is going to be about fuel injectors, cleaning them, when, why, and how. Under normal conditions, you really should never have to clean your fuel injector, but there are times when you might have to if the bike's been sitting for a long time, the fuel's gotten old in the gas tank, if the injector or the fuel line was left off of the bike for an extended period of time and the fuel dried up in the injector. All these things can cause an injector, the pintle inside, to either get stuck or even the gas to dry up and leave like a goo behind and even block some of the little holes that the fuel shoots out of. So them are the times that you would have to clean a fuel injector. However, I will say under normal conditions, you really never have to clean one or add any additive in your tank or anything like that. I can tell you the pump fuel nowadays has a lot of detergents in them because of direct injection motors on cars. They have had to add a lot of detergents in the fuel nowadays, and they keep injectors really clean. They keep the intake valves really clean. Them detergents are pretty strong. Now, I can't really speak for race fuels because every company has different blends. I don't know what detergents they use in them and what they don't, but I can tell you with pump fuel, there's definitely detergents in them, and they're keeping that injector clean. But they do get dirty. They can get dirty if you let the gas get old in the tank or anything like that. So that's why we're going to be cleaning this one today. So, real life scenario here. This is a fuel tank and injector off a 2021 YZ450. And this bike sat around for quite a while. The motor blew on them and it sat around for quite a while. The fuel was really old in the tank. But sometimes people just park their bikes in the shed or garage for a long time. They forget about it. They pull it out. They dump the fuel out of the tank, put fresh fuel. Hopefully they at least do that. And the bike doesn't start up. The first place I would start in a situation like that is start with the fuel pump. Usually that's the case, right? And if you do a YouTube search, just type in 111 fuel pump, and that will give you a few videos where I worked on fuel pumps. This Kawasaki right here, and also this Yamaha fuel pump. But they're pretty much the same. If you have a Honda or a Suzuki, same stuff, and even the KTMs are pretty similar. But the first thing you want to do is check the fuel pump. If you watch one of the videos, you'll see where I connect a motorcycle battery to the terminals on the fuel pump to light it up. And I use a fuel pressure gauge to check the fuel pressure. It should be anywhere, I've seen most of these bikes anywhere between 45 to 55, usually around the 50 mark, 50 psi mark. And then when you disconnect the power from it, it should drop pressure slowly. It shouldn't just drop right off. And if it holds pressure pretty well and it only slowly drops when you disconnect it and you have between 45 to 55 psi, your fuel pump's probably good. If it doesn't meet that, then you're going to want to repair that first. And again, you can watch them two videos and get an idea how to do that if you want to do a repair or a replace. I always suggest also doing the fuel pressure regulator. I don't know if I mentioned that in the videos or not. I think I did in one of them. But if you're going to if you're just going to repair it and you're going to replace the fuel pump motor, also do the fuel pressure regulator while you're in there. Once you get that squared away and you have good fuel pressure, sometimes if the bike's been sit for a long time, it still won't start. Let's say it was a perfectly good running bike. You just parked it for a long time, gas got old in the tank. You repaired the fuel pump, you have fresh gas in it, it's good, but it still won't start. It could be the fuel injector. The fuel injectors, when the gas gets real old in it, the pintle can get stuck. It can clog the ports here, all kinds of stuff like that. And let's take a look at the fuel injector for a minute here. Let me get something to point with. Alright, this is the inlet side right here, and if you look inside of here, you'll see that little white thing, the white stuff in there. That is a filter. So these they already have a screen filter built into them that will catch anything if something was to get by the fuel pump's filter. The fuel pump has its own filter, and usually everything's caught by that. Any sand that gets in the tank when you're at the track and you're adding gas, it gets caught up in the fuel pump filter. But this is to catch anything that might have broke off from the fuel pump itself, or when you disconnect the fuel line off the injector and you plug it back in, if a grain of sand got in there or something, that's what that little filter in there is to catch. And we'll be cleaning that when we go to clean the injector by backflowing. But another place they can get clogged up, as you know, is even right here. But I will add, let's go back to our scenario. We just fixed the fuel pump or checked it. It's a good fuel pump. It's producing good pressure. and it's sending fuel to the injector, but the bike still won't start. It was a known good running bike. It just sat for a long time. The next thing I'm going to do before I actually pull the injector, because some of these bikes, it can be difficult getting to this injector. I don't want to waste time pulling this injector and cleaning it for no reason. So the next thing I'm going to do is add some fuel directly into the cylinder. I'm just going to pull the spark plug out and add about that much fuel in it. Yeah, it doesn't take much, not too little, but just add some fuel directly into the spark plug hole. Quickly put the spark plug back in, connect the cap back onto it, or put the coil and plug back on top of it, and try to start the bike. If it barks off for just a second, just a little boom or a boom, boom, then we know that the motor runs. We just have a fuel issue, and at that point I'm going to go right to cleaning this fuel injector. But if it doesn't bark off at all when we put fuel in it, it just makes no sound at all, I might not rush right in for the fuel injector. I'm gonna start checking some other stuff, you know. It could be something else. Who knows? Maybe the spark plug went bad when it sat in there forever. Maybe some dirt daubers got up and the kill switch and has the kill switch pressed. Who knows? All I'm saying is, before I work hard to get this injector out on some of these bikes, it can be difficult to get out. And the YZs with the backward motor, they're real easy. But on like some of your Hondas and even Kawasaki's, they can be pretty tough. And before I do that, I want to at least make sure the motor's a runner. So let's say the bike barks off, so it's time to clean the injector. So let's go ahead and do that. To clean the injector, we're going to need to open the injector. There's several ways you can do this at home. I've heard of people using a 9-volt battery, running some wires from the 9-volt battery to the terminals here to be able to open the injector. I haven't tried that myself, but I imagine it works just great. You've probably seen in some of my videos, I have this little transformer here. It produces about 12 volts, but very low amperage, so it doesn't burn out the injector. You don't want to use too much power. Like, you don't want to connect it directly to a motorcycle battery, because you'll burn out it'll overheat that injector pretty quickly. So but they also sell these on eBay, these little fuel injector testing tools, drivers, whatever you want to call them. This is a cheaper one right here. It's about 25 bucks, McCar tool V30. So you can just Google it, eBay, search it, whatever. They're pretty cheap, and that's what I'll be using today. So what we do is we connect this to the battery here. Well, let me connect the positive but not the negative yet. And I'm first going to start with the backflow. Doesn't really matter which way, but just in case there's anything in that filter there, I want to get all that stuff out first. Now when you buy this McCar tool V30, it has, I put electrical tape over these wires right here, but one wire is red, one wire is black. They were just so thin, I knew I was going to shorten them after a while. Or not shorten them, but open them or break them after a while. So I put some electrical tape over it, and I just colored this one gold, this terminal right here gold, just so I know that that's the positive. A lot of your injectors will have a little positive and a negative sign on. Some of them don't. I don't see any on this one, but that's okay. For the most part, almost all injectors will work either way. If you if you get the polarity backwards, they will still work. I don't see a positive and negative on this one, so we're gonna hook it up. We're gonna slide it on. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do just a test run. I want to hear if it's gonna click. So I'll start in setting number 1. This one has 6 settings. Yep. Can you hear it? Okay. Now we're going to go to setting number 2. Listen, you'll hear it goes quicker. And it counts. It does it 100 times and stops. There we go. Okay, we're going to use that setting for the cleaning. You want to take a hose. This is what I'll be using at least. Make sure it's a clean hose. Make sure there's nothing in here. You don't want to send any trash into the injector. Since we're going to be doing a back flush, I'll be putting it on this way. Okay, and then we can fill this with 2 different things. We can fill it with some carburetor cleaner, you know, just this stuff right here. If it's a really dirty injector, I would use that to try to clean out tarnish and stuff like that. I don't believe this one's real dirty based on what I've seen in the fuel pump, and so I'm just going to use some gasoline. And I'm actually just going to use some gasoline with some 2-cycle oil in it, just for an extra little bit of lube. But yeah, let me get some of that. Okay, I have some gasoline in the syringe I'll be putting in here. And then we're going to need some air pressure. You know, what I did is I hooked up a little regulator to this line, and I have it at about 50 psi right here. But if you don't have a regulator, you can just lower your compressor to about 50, or you can just be gentle. Don't go wide open. And that should work. Again, if it's really truly a bad dirty fuel injector, you're going to want to use some carburetor cleaner. And if sometimes you might even have to let the carburetor cleaner sit in the ejector for a little bit to kind of soften things up if you're trying to bring the ejector back to life. But let's go ahead and fill this sucker up. Okay, had to change some stuff. You see I dropped some fuel here, but anyway, I have this slid up the injector. I'm gonna fill this line up with some gas. There we go. I'm gonna use setting number 6 on this because it opens and closes the pintle pretty quickly, and it'll keep it going for me. It doesn't have like a 100 count and then it stops. There we go. Now I'm gonna take my air pressure here, and if you look over here, watch this. There we go. We got that back flush. All right, you can do that more times if you like. I'm just doing it once on this one. Go ahead and pull this off. Now we're going to flip it around to the other side. I'm going to first remove this O-ring because this hose is kind of a tight fit. There we go. Same thing here, but this time we're going to flow the direction the fuel normally travels. You can see it shooting out the end there. Looks good. I'm just going to let some air go through it and kind of dry it out. There we go. Okay, so I can consider this injector clean, and we tested it. We know it works, so we can put it back in the bike. And now if the bike doesn't start up or whatever, I'm going to say it's probably not an injector or a fuel pump because we've checked all that and it's good. Start looking at some other stuff. But this one's good. Some things I will say is if you're going to store this injector now, let's say it's gonna be a month before you use it, or it's just a spare injector, now you're gonna set it on the shelf or whatever, you're probably gonna want to run some WD-40 through it now. Same way, connect the tester to it, put a little WD-40 in the hose, and shoot some WD-40 through it and out of it. Try to dry it up the best you can, where you don't really leave any WD-40 behind. You just sprayed it through. That will get rid of all the gas and leave a little bit of lubricant behind so that it doesn't lock up just sitting on the shelf, because any fuel that's left behind in here can just tarnish and lock up the pintle again on you. Then you'll be stuck with a bad injector again. And lastly, before you install the injector, if you're questioning anything, it doesn't hurt to check the resistance of the injector and compare it to what the manual says. If you're in question, you can use a ohm meter, voltmeter, and check the resistance of the injector and see what the manual says it's supposed to read, just to make sure you don't have an injector that's just kind of starting to go bad internally in the windings. Now, if the injector truly is bad, you've tried to free it up, you can't, it's not working, it's beyond the point of return, I'm going to suggest replacing it with a OEM injector. Do not buy the aftermarket ones that you see on eBay. Even the ones on eBay that, let's say it's a Denso fuel injector, and they're like Denso OEM replacement, right? But it doesn't come, if it's a Yamaha, let's say, it doesn't come in a Yamaha box. Don't buy it. Sometimes they change just little things in the injector for that manufacturer, for how they want it, and then the standard, I guess, generic one that Denso's selling, it's going to be a little bit different. I know that from experience. We have bought them injectors and put them in people's quads and bikes, and they just didn't work right. Yeah, they'll get it started up and running, but it would have a bog, or it would run as long as you're on the gas, but when you brought it down to idle, it didn't want to idle. Everything's good with the injector, it's brand new, but then we would pay the money, the $150, $170 for the OEM one, and that would fix the problem right off the rip. So my suggestion is, if you have to buy a new injector, definitely go OEM. Dang it, Beavis, chill, I'm making a video. And lastly, if this is a race bike, a track bike, you're jumping big jumps with it, right? If the bike wasn't running because of a fuel injector, you've cleaned it, the bike's now running, it's running great. Me personally, I would still replace the injector just because this bike's being used at the highest level of really big jumps where, you know, safety is definitely an issue and a factor you have to consider. So if you clean the injector and you got it running good, just buy a new injector. At least you found the problem. Cleaning the injector wasn't a waste of time. It just allowed you to dial in exactly what the problem was. So just buy the new injector, take out this one, and just save it. Just save it for a tester in case you have another bike and you need to test to see if it's a bad fuel injector or not. But I wouldn't use it on the track if I had to clean it to get it working again. That's just my take on it. If it's a play bike, a trail bike, or whatever, it's fine. You know. Street bike, yeah, it's fine. But if it's going for big triples and stuff, just go ahead and put a new plug in it just to be safe. Alright, now I got a KTM 50 that I have to finish do a top end on and then check the clutches on that. So yeah, this weekend I'm going to be taking out my YZ 250. On Sunday I'm going to Tampa MX. It's the last day they're going to be open to the public. Track is closing. He does have it planned to open up another track nearby somewhere. But this is going to be the last day for that track. So that's what I'll be taking, my YZ250 out to Tampa MX. I might also be riding on Saturday, depending on if and where the wife wants to ride. I think she might pick Punta Gorda. She could pick Tampa. We might even go to Bone Valley. I don't know. It's just whatever she picks. I know where I'm going on Sunday, but wherever she picks on Saturday is up to her. Hope all you guys have a great weekend riding. Make sure you get out there and ride. Just don't sit at home and do nothing. Get out there and ride. Catch you in the next video.